Snow fell softly on the cobblestones of the small Polish town of Varsovie, blanketing the streets in a gentle white cover. Tourists were gathering as Christmas approached. In the main square stood a Christmas tree adorned with twinkling lights, around which children danced, holding warm, sweet treats in their hands. Andrew stood on the edge of the crowd, leaning against the cold stone facade of a building. His gaze was cautious, and his hand instinctively brushed the pocket of his jacket, where an army knife rested. "Can you relax for just a second?" Kate appeared beside him, holding a cup of steaming tea. She smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "I'm trying," Andrew muttered. "It's just this place. Something feels off about it." Kate simply shook her head. To her, the town was the embodiment of a Christmas fairy tale. Cozy houses, the smell of gingerbread, soft snowflakes falling around them. But Andrew felt an odd tension. He had learned to trust his instincts, which had saved his life more than once. Varsovie had not been chosen by chance. Andrew had heard about it from his grandmother, who mentioned the town in old family stories. She spoke of their ancestors who once lived here and hinted at strange occurrences that always seemed to take place in this area. "Come on, there's a souvenir shop over there. I want to take a look," Kate said, tugging his hand. Inside, the shop smelled of dust and wood. The shelves were lined with old items, books with tattered covers, porcelain figurines, and candlesticks. But Kate's eyes were immediately drawn to a small, intricately carved box. "What a lovely thing. Look, Andrew," she said, picking up the box. The shopkeeper, an elderly woman wearing a scarf, flinched nervously when she saw it. "I don't think you should take that," Andrew muttered. "Why not?" Kate asked, puzzled. "Just don't." His voice was firm, but Kate insisted, and the box was bought. As the old woman rang up the purchase, she muttered something in Polish. Andrew only caught one word: warning. That night, Andrew woke up to the sound of the door closing. The room was empty. Kate was gone. Her belongings were still there, her jacket, her phone, her bag. Andrew rushed to look for her in the hotel, but none of the doors opened. The landlady, Mrs. Marta, just shook her head. "You can't go out after dark." She was taken away. Andrew grabbed the landlady's arm. "Who?" "They. The ones who live beyond the woods." The next day, Andrew went to the police, but was met with mistrust. The officers reluctantly took a statement, but one of them, a young man named Lukasz, whispered advice to contact a local journalist, Jan. Jan turned out to be a strange man. In his apartment, littered with papers and old photographs, he told of a cult that had been active in Varsovia for centuries. They worshipped the old gods. Every year at Christmas, people disappear. Tourists, it's their sacrifice, Ian said, eyes sparkling. Andrew didn't believe in mysticism, but Ian's story matched his feelings too closely. The journalist offered to help. He knew where the cult members gathered. The following night, Andrew and Ian set off into the woods on the outskirts of the city. Soon they came to an abandoned village. A light was on in one of the houses. Andrew went in first. Inside was Kate. She sat by the window with a blank stare. Around her neck was a strange symbol scorched with fire. "It's a mark," Ian whispered. "She's not the same anymore." Kate looked at Andrew and whispered, "They'll come for you." Andrew rushed over to Kate and put his arm around her shoulders, trying to shake her awake. "Kate, wake up. Who is they? What have they done to you?" Her gaze came back to life for a moment, but then faded again. "Go away," she said hoarsely, "before it's too late." There was the sound of footsteps outside. Andrew grabbed a knife from his pocket and pointed it at the door. Jan backed into a corner, whispering something about curses and ancient gods. The door slowly opened and a tall man in a black robe with a hood hiding his face appeared on the threshold. His voice was cold and commanding. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. Andrew took a step forward. "I'm taking her away. If anyone tries to stop us, I'll kill them." The man laughed. His laugh was low, rumbling, as if it echoed through the room. "You don't understand anything, sailor. She already belongs to us, and soon you will too." Andrew felt the air in the room grow thick, as if an invisible force was pressing down on him. Kate shrieked and grabbed her head. The symbol on her neck glowed red like a glowing coal. "Ian, do something," Andrew shouted, but the journalist only pressed his hands to his face, muttering a prayer. Andrew wasn't about to give up. He grabbed Kate's hand and dragged her toward the exit, but as soon as they stepped out of the doorway, a whole group of people in robes blocked their way. They held torches, and the same symbols shone on all their faces. "She must stay," said the same hooded man. "Her blood will bring us protection." "I don't give a damn about your rituals," Andrew shouted, raising his knife. Kate, barely on her feet, whispered, "Run, I can't." But Andrew didn't listen. He turned sharply and lunged at the first man with a torch, pushing him aside. The crowd surged, and in the commotion he managed to push Kate toward the woods. "Stay behind me," he shouted, but they didn't make it far. The air became heavy again, and the snow beneath their feet began to melt, as if an invisible heat had appeared beneath them. Strange sounds began to echo around them, like footsteps, voices, whispers coming from everywhere. Suddenly Kate stopped. She turned to Andrew, her face contorted with pain. "I can't leave," she said. "They're in my head." Andrew tried to grab her, but an invisible force threw him back. He hit a tree and lost consciousness. Andrew woke up when the sky was already lightening. He was lying in the main square of Warsovia, surrounded by locals. Ian sat next to him, his face grim. "Where is she?" Andrew exhaled, jumping to his feet. Ian looked at him, then raised his eyes to the Christmas tree. Underneath it lay a box, the same one Kate had bought. It was open, and inside was a burnt picture of Kate. "They took it," Ian said quietly. "And now you know why." "Why?" Andrew grabbed Ian by the collar. "Why all this?" "You brought her here yourself," Ian replied. "You brought the victim." Andrew realized the meaning of his words. He remembered everything. The strange glint in the sales clerk's eyes, the warning of old Mrs. Marta. This place was waiting for her, or whoever was with her. It was only then that he noticed something. On his neck, a small but familiar symbol, the same one Kate had been wearing. Andrew left Warsovia that same night. He no longer tried to understand what had happened. But one thing had changed. He had the box now. Every night he heard something inside whispering his name. He knew he would have to go back someday.